My next speaker is Max Markson. Max Markson has been running his own PR celebrity management events business for 30 years. He's brought President Clinton, Nelson Mandela, Tony Blair, and Al Gore to Australia and New Zealand and staged over 200 fundraising events, over $40 million to charity. Max has also worked with everyone from Kim Kardashian, Pamela Anderson, Linda Evangelistic, and Sugar Ray Leonard, MC Hammer, Laura Bingo, and is bringing Mike Tyson here in November. Please welcome to the stage Mr. PR himself, star of Channel 9 Celebrity Apprentice, Max Markson.
Hi guys, how you going? Hi guys, how you going? I like it. Okay, let's get some work out of the way straight away. 3 words, you've got to write these down. 3 words that I believe you can be successful at anything you do. Whether it's work, whether it's relationships, these are the 3 words you need. You ready? Are you ready? Yes. Thank you. Persistence. Enthusiasm. Focus. If you use those 3 words in anything you've got to do, any problem, challenge you've got, use those 3 words, you'll be fine. A mate of mine's a guy called Laurie Lawrence. Do you know Laurie? Laurie's an Olympic swim coach. He coached John Seaman to gold in 1984. He coached Duncan Armstrong to gold in 1988. He's still, to these last Olympics, still the Australian Olympic team take him along as an athlete liaison officer, as a motivational person. He sums it up in 1 word. If you can't remember those 3 words, persistence, enthusiasm, and focus, he says 1 word, persist. Persist. So that's the first bit of, so we've done some work today, this is good. Another bit of work. Who has got a business or needs to get publicity, ever, any time? Do you want me to help you do that now, quickly? Yes? Okay, I'll teach you how to write a news release. The best news release I've ever written was this. You've got to have a catchy headline, and the best news release I ever wrote was Jane Fleming and Duncan Armstrong visit Sydney this weekend for a route. It's the best release, I'm telling you. Right? And then the first paragraph, you always have to put who, what, where, when, and why. And it was like Jane Fleming and Duncan Armstrong visit Sydney to launch Ginsana, a ginseng root extract for Blackmores, or I think it was Vitaglow at the time, they were owned by Blackmores, for Vitaglow at some health and mind show. So what you have to do is a catchy headline. And what we got out of that release was the midday show rang up, and Jane and Duncan went on the midday show, and they talked about Ginsana, and you couldn't buy it within 72 hours anywhere in the country. They stocked it again. Again, it sold out within 3 weeks. And the deal I'd done for Jane, this is like 20 years ago, was she got $40,000 for the 12 months, plus 10% of any increase that the product did. And the product had done $250,000 in sales the year before. It did $1.25 million that year, so we got a $100,000 bonus. And I'm on 20%, so I got 20 grand. I liked that. That was the best release I ever wrote. You've got to write your news release, so you need to write, it has to have a catchy headline. Catchy headline is really important. And then the first paragraph is the who, what, where, when, and why. If you do that in your first paragraph, you've said it all, because the media sometimes don't get past the headline, never mind the first paragraph. So if you caught them with the headline, the first paragraph then, if they don't read any further, at least they know who, what, where, when, and why. So, you know, Max Markson is speaking, whatever today's date is, Monday the 17th of September at the BCEC for the 21st Century Financial Education Summit at 10:50, or at 11 o'clock. So it's who, what, where, when, and why. Why? To tell people about publicity, promotions, PR, celebrity. So then the rest of the press release, you've got your catchy headline, you've got your who, what, where, when, and why, and then the next paragraph could be a quote from yourself or somebody else, or could be, and then a bit more information, so that it's like a pyramid. Every piece of the information on the next 4 or 5 paragraphs should be a bit more information, but if you wanted to cut that pyramid off anywhere, you could, and what stands there is enough information. And at the end of the press release, really important, put contact details. So for more information, phone Fred Blogs on 0412 501 601 or email at fred@fredblogs.com.au. So you have to give them the information so the media can ring you or email you. And I never date my news releases. I never date. Other PR people say, oh, you've got to put the date on it. But I figure The press release might sit around there for a week and they'll pick it up and then they'll want to use it. If they see it's a week old, they might say, oh no, that's no good. But you can date it if you want to. So I've taught you persistence, enthusiasm, focus. I've told you how to write a press release. Can we have some fun now? Good. I'm happy to take any questions on celebrities. I've worked with President Clinton, Nelson Mandela, Tony Blair, Al Gore, President Bush Sr. I've worked with Rudy Giuliani, former mayor of New York. So I've got Mike Tyson coming in November for a week with me. Worked with Joe Frazier, Muhammad Ali. I'll answer questions about my night with Michael Jackson, Kim Kardashian, Raquel Welch. You name it. I'll come up with a story for you. Pamela Anderson. Shall I tell you a little bit about myself, briefly? I was born at an early age. My dad was a high diver, so he had an aqua show, which is like an ice show but with synchronized swimmers and things like that. And he dived, and I grew up around these swimming pools. Anyway, I went to boarding school when I was 10. When I was 15, my father died. And that, for me, I guess helped me know my limits. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me. My father died. I was 15. I thought, oh. Anyway, from there, I've always pushed things to the edge. So I never worry because I figure what's the worst going to happen? I'll lose all my money, but I've got my health. I'll be fine. I'll keep going. So I guess my dad's death gave me that edge to be able to do everything. So sometimes I am a bit crazy. I push things too far and people get so upset about it. But you know what? I don't care. I just do it and I just keep going and keep going and keep going. So I enjoy what I do. I have lots of fun doing it. Then I worked as a spotlight operator for 50 pence a night. I used to cycle down. That's why I failed my exams for the 2 years leading up to my 18 when I was 18. And I was the spotlight operator of this club. And then I hired the club. They closed it down. I hired it one night a week and put on BBC Radio 1 disc jockeys and pop groups. And I put a band on called Hot Chocolate. They just released a song called I Believe in Miracles, where you from, you sexy thing, you sexy thing. Dun, dun, dun. It sounded better, right? They did it. Right. Anyway, I booked them. I heard the record on the radio. I thought, this will be good. And I booked them for £1,000, and that was on the Saturday, the 22nd of November, 1975. And it sold, 2 weeks before, they were #1 in the charts, so we sold out like crazy. It did really well. And then I started booking other bands as well as DJs. And in '76, I was doing some rock nights. Every Monday night, I book a rock band. And I got off, this agent rang up. So I've got a band for you. I said, how much are they? That was 'cause I had to get a cheap band. He said, they're £300. I said, that's great. Tell me about them. So, oh, they're from Australia. They're called AC/DC. I said, sounds good. And I booked AC/DC before they were famous. And now, for £300, you probably couldn't get 4 tickets to go and see them. Then at the end of, I was 21. I've been working for 4 years doing pop groups and promotions. I came to Australia for a holiday. I liked it, so I stayed. And I've been here 35 years now. I got told to get out of the country because my visa expired. So I got told to get out of the country 3 times, actually. And here's another example of persistence. So I went in with this girl, and I bought her an engagement ring. I said, we're engaged to be married. And they said, don't believe you. And they were right. So you got 14 days to get out of the country. Anyway, I was fortunate that I knew a federal Liberal MP of the day called John Abel. And John knew the Michael McKellar, the Minister of Immigration. They gave me residency. And years later, I did a lot of fundraising for the Labour Party. And I raised around $1 million a year for them over 4 years at one stage. And if we rang him up now, he'd say, if I would have known you're going to give all that money to the Labour Party, I would never have let you stay in Australia. Because he's Liberal, you see. When I think of... then I started my PR business, doing promotions and publicity. I've been doing that 30 years. Then I started managing celebrities, which I've been doing for about 20-odd years. The phone's ringing. We'll switch that off, because don't need that. And then I started doing events. And events I've done, as I said in the introduction, I've done over 200 charity events and given over $40 million to charity. And as part of that, I do business events as well. But as part of that, I've been very privileged to host President Clinton on 4 visits to Australia. And I love President Clinton. And I've got a story, one of my favourite stories about President Clinton, which has a message to, I think, for all of us, is he speaks to people. He's charismatic and everything, but he really talks to you. And when he came, the last time I brought him was in 2006, We were in Melbourne, a room, 1,000 people there, tables, and John Singleton was the moderator, and at the end of the moderation session we did Q&A with the audience, and somebody said, President Clinton, what is the secret of your success? And this, we all know you've got great people handling skills, but what's the secret of your success? And I think his people handling skills are, he's super intelligent. But anyway, he said, have you all thought, and we could all think, who's put the chairs out today, who's organised teas, coffees, who's looked after us, even though that we can't see them? And he says, when we go to work in the morning, you'll see the receptionist or you'll see one of your colleagues, and you just walk past them. And you might say, hi, hi, and just keep walking. And he said, there's a place in Africa where if they see someone, they actually stop and say, I see you. Anyway, after the speech, I was escorting him out with 12 Secret Service agents around us, as you do, and we get into this lift. There's a lift operator there, and he takes us down to the ground floor. As we're going down, as we're leaving the lift, President Clinton touches the guy on his arm. Then we get into there's the motorcade there, and I said goodbye to President Clinton because I had some other speakers I had to go and look after. And I get back in the lift, and there's just me and this lift operator in the lift, and I told him the story I've just told you, and I said, did you notice that President Clinton touched you on the arm as he left the lift? He said, notice it. Made my day. I've been here since 6 o'clock this morning. The fact that President Clinton acknowledged me made my day. So it's important to acknowledge people, and whether it's the taxi driver, whether it's the garbage man, whether it's the president, the prime minister, talk to people. Listen to them. Do you want to hear about Kim Kardashian? Well, some do, some don't. You don't have to listen to this. Okay, close your ears. Okay, it's gossip. It's fun. Right? I was very lucky. I got called by Michael Hill. Do you know Michael Hill Jewelers? Do you know Michael Hill, the jewelers? Great story. He's 72 now. When he was 42, he'd been working for 20 years in this jewellery store in Whangarei. Anybody from New Zealand? Whangarei, little 20,000 people. Anyway, he was working for his uncle. His house burns down. So he has an epiphany. He's got a wife and 2 kids. His house burned down. I have to buy my uncle's jewellery shop. And he comes the next morning, says to his uncle he wants to buy the jewellery shop. And his uncle basically tells him to get lost. So he finished up opening a store up the road 3 weeks later called Michael Hill. And he writes on a piece of paper, 7 stores in 7 years. 7 years later, he's opened 7 stores. Well, that's 70 stores, 7 years. Does that too. He's now across New Zealand, Australia, Canada, and in America. Got 250 stores. And he says, we all think in terms of what's going to happen next week, or our forward planning might be 6 months or a year or 2 or 3 years. Michael Hill says you've got to look 30 years ahead. You've got to plan 30 years ahead. So his goal at 72 is to have 1,000 stores. He says you've got to plan. He's a public company. He's worth a couple $100 million, or the company is, and he's worth $100 million. Anyway, wealthy. Anyway, so they've got this 22-carat diamond they want to give away, and they call me up, which is a smart thing to do because I like diamonds. And so I said to them, what they've got to do is we've got to launch it in New York, because they wanted to get publicity in America, and let's get Kim Kardashian to launch it. And they said, who? I said, Kim Kardashian is really famous. This is October 2010. So we finished up getting Kim Kardashian, and we did a media launch in New York. Then we flew to Toronto, had another launch there. Then we flew to Chicago. Then I hit the road with Michael. We went to Calgary, Vancouver, Los Angeles, Sydney, Melbourne, and Auckland with the 22-carat diamond ring. But Kim was absolutely professional. She's the best step and repeat you've ever seen. Do you know what a step and repeat is? Okay, I'll be Kim Kardashian. So Kim Kardashian would stand in front of like a media wall there, and you can be all photographers. So Kim steps and then repeats, and steps, and then repeats, and steps, and then repeats, and steps. And so everybody gets the nice photograph of her with the media wall behind. She is really good. Then the other thing about Kim, she gets there early. She was always there half an hour in advance. And the other piece of real gossip, come close. Come close. You know she got married last year. No, in 2000. Yeah, she got married in 2011 and only lasted 72 days. Well, a full 10 months before that, I booked this fantastic suite at the hotel for her, had hair and makeup. She arrived, but goes and stays at Chris Humphrey's home in New Jersey. So that relationship lasted longer than 72 days. They were definitely going together for 10 months in advance until they got married. I don't know what happened to the wedding. It was not my fault. Okay? What's that, Kim? Yeah, it won't be long. It was a joke, not really. So, Kim Kardashian. Loved Kim. Tony Blair. Tony Blair's fantastic. I hosted him last year. We did 7 events in 5 cities, in 4 days, in 2 countries. And apart from giving fantastic content, he also told wonderful stories as well. And one of the things, I don't know if you're aware, but he was very highly involved when he was Prime Minister of Great Britain in the Middle East, not the Middle East, the Northern Ireland peace process. And he tells a story how he'd go across there every 6 weeks, 8 weeks. He's there 1 week, and there's the guy there, and the guy's chatting to him, and he says, "Mr. Blair, congratulations, I believe you're having a baby." I said, "Yes, thank you." I said, "What are you going to call the baby?" I said, "Well, I thought I'd call it after my late father, Leo." "Oh, that's nice, that's nice." Anyway, 2 months later, he's back there again, and he sees this guy, and he's got amazing suntan. And if you know Northern Ireland, you don't get a suntan in Northern Ireland. So he said to me, "Quite a suntan." I said, "Well, it's partly thanks to you, Mr. Blair." He says, "Why is that?" He says, "Why is that?" He said, "Well, when we talked last time, I congratulated you about having the baby. You told me the name of the baby. Well, I went down to the bookmakers the next day and put £1,000 on Leo." So Tony Blair, fantastic. Nelson Mandela, I was privileged to host on the 4th of September 2000, and I did 3 functions with him. First function with James Packer hosted. We did 20 people, paid $25,000 a head to come for lunch. And I sat with James to work out who should be invited, and we came up with a list, and then we'd invite them. And as they RSVP, if they'd say yes, that was great. If they'd say no, I'd ring Jackie Murray, James's PA, and within half an hour, miraculously, they'd say yes. I don't know if it's the power of money or they had to, but nobody said no. About a month before I had Mandela come, I got a call from a kid. Said, "Oh, you know my dad, can I come and do work experience with you?" I said, "Sure." And it happened to be that week commencing Monday, 4th of September. I said, "Fine, make sure you wear a suit. You might meet Nelson Mandela." And the day came, and because it was just a private function, the luncheon was for 25 people, I said to him, "Come along." We were waiting outside the luncheon room. Mandela comes down with James Packer and a couple of security around him, sees this kid, and breaks away from James Packer and walks over to the kid and puts his arm around him, says, "Why aren't you at school today?" and later that night, we had a function of about 500 people who'd paid $1,000 and $250 a head. And they... to start the night off, we had the Australian Girls Choir, which does all the Qantas adverts, and they sang the South African and the Australian national anthem. And at the end, as they were walking off the stage, Mandela walked, and he was at a table with Bob Hawke, Gough Whitlam, Malcolm Fraser, the then Premier of New South Wales, Bob Carr. It was sort of a lengthways table, so he was sort of halfway through the room. He walks across the room, and he shook hands with every single one of those girls who'd been singing in the choir. He said, "Thank you very much, thank you very much." He was just a very humble man, very special man. So I like Nelson Mandela. Questions? 1 question, 2 questions, 3 questions. Who's got any question? I'll answer anything you want about anything, even Lara Bingle. Yes. Mike Tyson, okay. Met Mike Tyson the first time 2 weeks ago. Bringing him, we're doing Mike Tyson's Day of the Champions. We're in Brisbane, I think, on the 16th of November. I'm confident the visa will come through, but I went and met Mike for the first time. He is a changed man. He's no longer the baddest man on the planet, he's the funniest man on the planet. His wife, Kiki, his 3rd wife, he's got 8 children, 1 who's died, has changed him. He's coming with Kiki, his 2 children who are 18 months and 2.5 years old. He's got this tattoo on his face, which I think I want to get some henna tattoos to give to people, so everybody can walk around looking like Mike Tyson. He's vegan now. He's not aggressive. His rider for his contract is that I have to organise chamomile teas, herbal teas, nuts and fruit in his room. He's sober. A changed man to the image that he was. We did a news conference with him, and he was laughing, joking. He tells it, he's just done a one-man show in Las Vegas, and followed that up with Spike Lee's directed him. He's just done 2 weeks on Broadway in a one-man show. And one of his stories he tells is, he says, "When I was divorcing Robin Givens," he says, "I decided to give it one last, I was on the way to the lawyers, I thought I'd give it one last chance, and I went over to Robin's home, and I knock on the door and ring the bell, no answer. So as I'm walking away, her car comes up the driveway. I knew it was her car because I'd bought it for her. And then I'm thinking I'm going to talk to her, but then I see there's a shadow of there's somebody in the car with her. And I get angry. But then I see it's Brad Pitt, and I became a wet noodle." Mike Tyson, changed man. He says when he looks back at himself how he was, he says he would have been frightened of him. He just couldn't, face himself. Could he get back in the ring again now? He says no, because he'd lose his family. He's very much a family man. I mean, he's just saying, he's burnt through $300 million. He's bankrupt. I don't know if he's still bankrupt. But Mike Tyson, I'm looking forward to meeting him in November again when he comes, and we'll have fun with him. Anybody else? The champ, which one? Danny Green, Jeff Fennick, Costa Zoo, Muhammad Ali. Okay, I've had 2 brushes with Muhammad Ali. The first one was when I had Nelson Mandela in September 2000. Ali was coming, and his agents ring me up and say, can you get him some gigs? And they wanted $250,000 a time, and I just couldn't get him anything. And the second time was I was with President Clinton in November 2005 at the anniversary of the opening of his library in Little Rock. And afterwards I'm with him and about 3 or 4 people in his private room where he's got above the library. And they all go, and he says, Max, stay back, stay back. What are you doing tomorrow? I said, I was just going to go back to New York. He said, do you want to come with me? I said, where are we going? He said, going to Louisville, Kentucky for the opening of the Muhammad Ali Gala Center. I said, fantastic. So they didn't have room on the private plane, so I made my way from Little Rock to Louisville. I get there Saturday afternoon. There's calls from the Secret Service and Clinton's office. We've got tickets for you. Do you want to have your own box? Do you want to be here? What else? So it was black tie. So I went to Louisville, Kentucky on a Saturday afternoon, and I rented a black tie outfit, checked into Brown's, I think it's Brown's Hotel, which is where he used to box in the ballroom, get into my black tie, go down to the function. It was a big night. There was Hootie and the Blowfish performing, Chris Christopherson, James Taylor, Brad and Angelina in the audience. Jim Carrey introduces Loney Ali, Muhammad's wife, who comes on with Muhammad, and Loney talks, then introduces President Clinton. President Clinton comes out. He speaks. Muhammad Ali's fooling around behind him, doing all this behind his ear, because Ali doesn't talk too well because he's got Parkinson's. Then I'm backstage afterwards. Ali's there with a troop of people, they're going, and Clinton's people are saying, come, we're going off to the airport, we've got room on the private plane for you. I say, fantastic. And they say, have you got your suitcase with you? I said, no, it's back at the hotel. And the Secret Service say, don't worry, Mr. Markson, we'll get it to you. So I'm there wearing my rented black tie outfit, which is from Louisville, and I've left my suitcase, my passport and everything in the hotel. Next motorcade, and we are on the aeroplane, and off we go, private plane to New York. I got my gear back 2 days later. And then about a month later, it was quite cute. There'd been a guy at Little Rock and on the plane who took all these pictures of me with President Clinton. So I got all these lovely pictures of Clinton hugging me and stuff like that, which I didn't know had been taken. So it's sweet. And he signed a few to my mum and me and stuff like that. So there you go. That's the closest I got to Ali. Yes?
Who are the top 3 people that you would like to work with that you haven't already?
Oh, President Obama, definitely. I'd love to bring him across. Michael Jordan. I'd love to bring him. Third person, let's come with the third one. Okay, let's all wish. Who do you reckon? Third person, let's have some names. Lance Armstrong? No, not keen. I could have done Lance, but Angelina Jolie. I'd love Angelina. I think she, and you know, when I look at it, it's not just who I want to hang out with, it's who I think people want to come and see. And I think if we put Angelina Jolie on a stage, people would come and hear because she's got a fantastic story. And her and Brad would be great. Jack Nicholson, I'd love to get hold of. Clint Eastwood, I think would be great. So yeah, just people. Question.
Max, you've given us 3 things. You've given us persistence, enthusiasm and focus.
Yes.
But in an Australian context, and having lost your father at 15, what bit of advice would you give to the young people of Australia?
Oh, dream. Do anything you want. Don't work for somebody else. Work for yourself. As my mother said. Read a book by Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. That I had at 15. I think that was fantastic for me. Other advice. You're the guy called Jack Cowan. I don't know if you know Jack. He owns Hungry Jack's. He's worth about $700 or $800 million. He owns Quarter Bridge Climb. He said there's 2 things you've got to have. One, your health, because without your health you're nothing. And the other, be the master of your own destiny in terms of your money. And the other thing, which I always love, I read about Jack one day, and I'm mates with him, I've known him for 15 years or so, is Singo says, if he ever floats, put as much money as you can into Jack Cowan. But Jack says, don't wait for your boat to come in, row out to it. So I think it's a great line. Questions? Any more questions?
Max, up the back here.
I got you.
What has made Max successful? What are those skill sets that you've acquired that has made you where you are today? And what was the event that sort of really launched you and made you are who you are? I mean, you've partly answered it, but then again, you haven't perhaps told me or the audience exactly, we've found out who you are, but what are those skill sets? What's made you who you are? Why do people gravitate towards you to be successful?
I answer the phone. I listen to people. I think it's really important to listen to people. So whoever rings me, I always have a chat. I listen to them to see what they want. If I can help them, I help them. If I can't, I won't. Or I tell them I can't. I think for that positive, I really am positive. Someone rings, they say, how are you? I say, fantastic, sensational. I'm always like up. And I really, I look forward to the day. I enjoy what I do. I think it's important to enjoy what you do. And I think, when you're talking to people, look them in the eye and just listen to them. And remember, you got two ears and one mouth. So listen twice as much as you talk. And I've probably talked twice too much to you already today. Yes, sir.
What do you find it's the main problem that they can't have enough sleep and therefore they go to drugs and things like that? Why would you say that?
Well, I don't know. I think that's a personal issue. If they can't sleep, they've got to do drugs and things. But I don't know. I mean, maybe they've got bad management, or they haven't got a team of people around them looking after them, or just somebody looking after them. I think you need to have someone in your life that grounds you. That even you meet people who you hate, but even people you hate, they go home. Someone loves them. They've got kids. They've got parents. Even people hate this guy or whatever. They've still got people who love them. Everyone's got a good side. Remember, always look on the bright side of life. Do-do, 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 do-do.
Pleasure to have you at 21st Century.
Thanks.
I know many of you had a chance to ask some questions. We've got a couple more questions been sent in.
I'll take questions.
Max. One is all publicity good publicity?
Groucho Marx said, any publicity is good publicity. And remember, today's stories are tomorrow's fish and chip wrapping. No, seriously.
What, as far as, say, someone has, there's obviously big companies use PR firms a lot to grow small businesses. What's probably one inexpensive method they could use to get some PR quickly?
Oh, I do a quick stunt. If you come up with a silly idea, do it. Just really do it. And you've got to take it, run with it, do it. Do something sillier. One of the best things I reckon for getting a photo straight away is, and I've done it 3 times now in my career, is roller skating on a surfboard in the sea. The papers, I'm going to go and roller skate on a surfboard in the sea to promote my new, whatever it is, right? And they'll come down, they'll take a picture, and you fall off the board. It always looks funny.
So doing crazy humorous stuff. I guess, if you look at someone like Richard Branson, he's been his own PR firm
Absolutely.
by doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah, humour, fun. You've got to have fun. Have fun. Think in pictures. So if you're trying to do publicity, think in pictures. Come up with an idea that's a good picture, because a picture's worth 1,000 words.
And what about, say, companies that might get themselves in hot water that have a PR disaster on their hand? What should they do?
Prepare, and before that happens. So what you do, you actually have a crisis management situation. You could Google this and find it all online. But just sit down, whenever you want to do it, but sooner than later, and think, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, someone could find that our soft drink's contaminated with cockroaches, or someone could find that my beauty parlour has got mice running through it, or something's happened whereby there's a catastrophe gone wrong. Go and sit down, work through what are all the worst things that can happen. Okay, how are we going to handle this? Okay, this is how you handle it. 1, talk to the media. So when they say, hi, we believe that you've had contamination in your cupcakes. Thank you for calling. Let me find out. Let me get back to you. What's your name and number? I will call you back in an hour's time. I'll find what's going on. So at least you've bought yourself an hour and you can prepare. But then ring them back in an hour's time. We're still working on this. We'll have an announcement tomorrow at 12 o'clock, or whatever you want to do. So then you work out what is your answer. Hi. Yep. And you have a statement prepared, or you have someone who can talk. And between all of us, someone can talk. Normally the women can talk really well. Ooh, girls talk. Right? No. But then
I'm sure no one here will disagree.
No, with this. But what you do, then you work out what you're going to say. And so you might say, look, there weren't our cupcakes, there were somebody else's cupcakes that happened to be delivered there, and they did have there, and whatever. But you come up with your excuse. You try and put a positive spin on it. Yeah. Yes, we've recalled all those cupcakes. We've had the health and safety authorities in. We've swept the place. We've got new cupcakes starting tomorrow, or we're doing whatever we're doing. So you take action, and you tell them you're taking action, and you tell the media. So you communicate with the media. So first of all, it's let us come back to you. Then you go back to them. If you haven't got anything, we'll come back to you when we have got something. So I'll often buy time. They'll say, well, is this story true that so-and-so's going out with so-and-so? So let me find out for you. And I'll go and find out. And then I'll come back and say, absolutely, they're married. What? But he's married already. Oops. And have a bit of fun with it. I always think...
So I guess you could turn it, what looks like negative PR, almost turn it around. Like a
spin
dissatisfied customer, you can turn around if you pay them attention.
Try and spin it. And also, or just say, sorry, we did wrong, I'm sorry. I always remember when the Olympic Games were on in Sydney, there was a ticketing fiasco about a year or so before, and all it needed was somebody to come out and say sorry. And finally they did, they didn't know what they were going to do, and they were ducking. And finally, Graham Richardson, Michael Knight, and John Coates did a news conference and said, we're sorry, we screwed up, we're starting again. It just pricks the bubble. Say sorry.
And quickly, social media. Is that making perhaps PR easier or harder to...
Oh, it's easier. Who's on Facebook or Twitter? If you're not, get on it. If you've got a website, get on it. You have to be there. This is the future. If you're not on Twitter, get onto it and start doing it. Just tweet. Do it 10 times a day, 20 times a day. Talk about whatever you want, whatever's happening in the news, anything. But you've got to do stuff. Quick story. When John F. Kennedy became president of the United States of America, he went out and said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. Next day, his advisor said that was a great speech, but we're inundated with calls asking, what can we do? So he went back, unprecedentedly, he went back and did another public broadcast. And he basically, I'm paraphrasing, he said, do something, do anything. It's like when you've got a pond and you put your hand in it, you make ripples. Do something, do anything. So I'm telling you, get onto, if you're not on Twitter and Facebook, get onto it. Use it for your business, for your life. The Twitter is the sizzle for the steak of Facebook. But use it. I do so much stuff on there. Some of it's absolutely useful. Guys.
And final question, Max. What is your favourite dessert?
My favourite dessert, there's one at the Key restaurant. It's too expensive, but it's called the Snow Egg, which is spectacular. It's got like granita with a bit of custard in it. It's an egg, and it's like a caramel sort of brittle thing inside this blancmange and pavlova sort of. It's fantastic, but it's really too expensive. But otherwise, I love, if you're ever stuck in a restaurant, bowl of vanilla ice cream and chocolate sauce can't go wrong with, right?
Give Max a hand. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Max. Always a privilege.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
I'm out of here. Cheers. Thanks, guys. Thank you.